What up? We are back. New week, new national JUCO recruiting coach and team of the week. Excited to go to Kansas this time for our first Kansas edition. We got Dodge City and Coach Brad Witherspoon coming in the building, former Jayhawk. So we're going to talk a little bit of Kansas hoops. What
Yeah.
up, Coach?
How's it going, man? How's it going?
Good. Yeah, it's good, man. Not as good as you. You guys are the team of the week, so I'm not on your level, but excited to have you here today.
Yeah, excited to be here, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun, man. It's gonna be fun. So before we even talk about the team, you're a former Jayhawk and you got to experience some of that playing experience. What is it like to be coaching now as a head coach in your first year in the same state that you play ball?
Well, I kind of understand what those coaches at KU went through when we were all there now. So
Right.
I know why they were stressed the whole time. But no, man, it's been good. It's been good. I knew back then I wanted to coach, and I'm just trying to soak it all in right now, like I was back then, and learn as much as I can and keep this thing rolling. So hopefully the Jayhawks can repeat this year. I don't know, they lost a lot of scoring last year, but I've been tuned in, watched them play. So
For sure. I'm sure you're locked in all the time. Well, let's talk about you guys. You guys were locked in last week and pulled off becoming the JUCO recruiting team of the week. So, talk a little bit about your week. Obviously, you got a big win against number 7. You went 2-0. You played Seward as well. Talk a little bit about the week in both the games.
yeah, I mean, we had a tough schedule to start out. At Cali, Coffeyville at home, at Seward. But both those teams are really good, and our region's really good, as everybody knows. And it's going to be a dogfight till the end. We're blessed to get off to the start we have been, but I've been telling everybody the last day or so that you're in this business long enough, that you get too high, it can come crumbling down pretty quick. So you got to stay humble and you got to stay hungry and you got to stay locked in. But I'm proud of our guys, man. Those are 2 good wins against 2 really good teams that are going to have great years. So they were definitely big wins for us.
Yeah, talk about let's go ahead and just jump straight into your guys. Talk about your team, the players, who's kind of recruitable that coaches can kind of tune into and start showing them some more love. We know guys don't like to recruit JUCO during the year, so we got to give them reminders. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we got a little bit of everything, honestly, and I think that's kind of why we've been pretty balanced as far as scoring goes, and guys are getting a lot of minutes. But we got 3 really good guards that are kind of combo point guards that kind of make us go. And DJ Jones was with me last year. He was a top 50 freshman in the nation, and he's getting some recruitment right now. We got Chris Robinson, who was at Hutch 2 years ago on the national tournament team. Very similar style players, strong, handle the ball, take care of the ball, make good decisions. And then we got Jason Edwards, who can fill it up from all over the place. When he gets hot, he had 37 against Coffeyville, and when he gets going, he gets going. So those 3 guards kind of make us go. And then, inside we got a 6'11" freshman who's a qualifier who's playing good minutes for us. And then we got 2 post players. One's a freshman qualifier, Jacoby Seabach, who had a lot of stuff early after the jamborees, and he's a very unique player. I don't know what position he plays. He just plays. So everybody says, what is he? I don't know what he is, but he can shoot it, he can drive it, he rebounds it, he can defend, does a little bit of everything. And so he's been big for us to start these few games off. And then Cam Malray, who's a sophomore for us, 6'8", kind of a 4-5. Very similar to Jacoby, does a little bit of everything, but both those guys are interchangeable. And so, our sophomores are good, and you got to have good sophomores to win at this level. And, we've been blessed so far. Our sophomores have been pretty good. So those are the main guys right now that are kind of getting a lot of attention for us.
Right, rightfully so. Talk a little bit about this program, Coach. You're in year 1 there, returning back to Kansas, which is dope. Talk a little bit about the inside of the culture of the program. And who knows, there may be a recruit that ends up watching this they don't know, or a parent or a coach that wants to send a kid there. But most people don't necessarily know a lot about a lot of these JUCO programs. So we want to make sure we give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody called me crazy the last 2 years. My first year at Tonkawa last year, I took over for Donnie Jackson, who won 2 league titles and 2 region titles in a row. And I went in there with a lot of expectations my first year. And now here I am at Dodge, and Jake Williams had this thing rolling last year, and they were 30-5 and went to the national tournament and all that stuff. And so once again, I'm stepping into a program that was very successful last year as well. But But yeah, man, it's a great spot. It really is. We got one of the nicest facilities in the nation, I think. And from our gym, we're getting we got a $2 million weight room being built right now. That'll add to it a little bit. So those are good, positive things for our program. Um, as far as the program goes, I'm really big on personality and having great energy within our program. And so if you asked our guys right now what I demand of them most days, that's what it is. Have a personality, have energy, act like you want to be here. And that's half the battle sometimes. JUCO's tough. It's tough. You're away from home. Sometimes you're in these small towns, eating in the cafeteria, whatever it is. And it's hard for some of these kids to keep that motivation going. So, we try and do a really good job of creating that for our guys every day in practice. And so I think that's part of the reason we've been pretty successful right now is because we have a group of guys that understand that. 2 guys that were with me last year, 2 guys that have been other places that I think have demanded that as well. So when you got a core group of guys that buy into that type of stuff, I think you can be pretty good at this level.
No doubt. What do you love about JUCO hoops, Coach? Some people don't understand it, don't appreciate it, don't love it, and we'll talk about recruiting in a second. But what do you just love about JUCO hoops? You've been at 2 now as far as a head coach, having success at the second one. Talk a little bit about what makes JUCO a place you love.
Yeah, I get that question asked a lot. What my next step is, and of course my distant family is like, "Oh, when are you going to be the next head coach at KU?" And I'm like, "Okay, yeah,
Right,
yeah, that's okay." But when I got into coaching, man, it was always my dream to coach JUCO and coach in this region because
wow,
I grew up watching them. I
Yep.
grew up in Kansas. I grew up going to Coffeyville, Neosho, Coffeyville, Indy. I grew up going to Allen County Neosho games. And so I saw all these teams come through and play. And so I honestly think it's just been ingrained in me for so long. My mom taught at a JUCO for a long time. And so I love the level. I think you can make a difference in kids' lives at this level more so than you can at other levels. Not that you can't at other levels, but I think, the opportunity that junior colleges provide for kids and, the reasons that they're here sometimes, I think you can make a big difference in kids' lives when they come this level. And I get a lot of reward out of that, seeing guys that I've coached in the past move on, that I still talk to, that I know what they're doing. Some of them are still playing. Some of them have jobs now. Some of them are married. Right. Some got kids, and I get a joy out of seeing that more so sometimes the wins and losses because, this is a small part of these kids' lives right now. And I try to make sure they know that every day.
Yeah, well said. What do you say to the JUCO, to guys that maybe haven't recruited JUCO or that do? I mean, obviously the portal is a thing. It's a kind of a question we ask all the time just because I think it's a narrative that people are kind of get lost in, like the portal. But JUCO players are still having success at the Division I level, at the Division II level, and there's still an important place for JUCO players. So what would you say to that kind of conversation?
Yeah, I don't knock the portal. I think it's part of our business now, and it is what it is. And I think it's a lot of the reason why a lot of the older coaches are getting out of it. Honestly, it's new to them and they're trying to figure it out. But I do think it's important because kids go places and when you're 18 years old, you make decisions for whatever reason, and sometimes they're not the best decisions. And so sometimes it's in your best interest to try to find a new spot where you can be successful. So. I'm all for it, but at the same time, obviously being a JUCO coach, I'm partial to the JUCO guys. I think it was Bob Huggins back in the day. Maybe it was Buzz Williams, somebody like that said they like JUCO guys because they've rode in 15 passenger vans and eat sack lunches on the road, and that's JUCO, man. You got to tough it out. It's a grind, and I know that's pretty cliche to say. Everyone says it, but it really is.
It's true though.
It's true, and we go from August to. I tell our guys we've been going since August 15th, and we're NCAA, D2, D1, D3. They wait. They got to wait a little while before they technically get going. We've been going since August, man, and it gets long. But I do think it makes guys tougher, and I think if you're going to make it out of here, if you can make it at a really good JUCO or a really tough JUCO, I think you can tough it out at a good Division I. So that's why I think a lot of JUCO kids are being successful right now.
No doubt. Talk about your playing and coaching. You talk about growing up watching JUCO. We talked a little bit about Kansas. Just talk about your journey to getting where you are a little bit, if you don't mind, Coach.
Yeah, absolutely. I played at Kansas for Bill Self, and I was really, really blessed to be able to do that. I knew I wanted to coach, and so my years there, I really tried to take it all in and learn as much as I could from him and his assistants. Great assistants: Curtis Townsend, Joe Dooley, Danny Manning. Guys that I still talk to once in a while. Brett Ballard, who's at Washburn, who's a good friend of mine. Like those are guys that I looked up to and still do in the coaching world. So having those resources and having those guys in my back pocket to pick their brain and stuff like that is huge. I've been coaching, I think 13, 14 years now. Once again, I'm kind of like you. I get lost in the years, but I think 10 or 11 have been in JUCO, and
Awesome.
my first JUCO spot was at John Wood, Division II in Illinois, and working for Brad Hoyt, who's still the head coach there. He's going to be a Hall of Fame coach someday. Been to multiple national tournaments. He's one of the best guys I've been around to build a culture, get
Right.
teams to buy into the school they're at, to tie into the alumni at a small school environment. That stuff's hard to do, and he
Yeah.
does probably the best I've seen at that. And he gets those kids to buy in. So working for him was great. Obviously, I worked for Coach Hobright down at Kilgore, so that was an experience, of being at that level and recruiting those types of kids. And he coaches his guys hard, and it was a different monster, going from D2 to D1 and that level.
Right.
So that was good for me. And then obviously I was with Coach Fletchall at Barton for 4 years, and I can't say enough about Fletchall. He's still a good friend of mine. Talk to him every day. So he gave me a lot of freedom there for my 4 years to kind of make a lot of decisions that assistants usually don't get to make.
Right.
Offense, defense, X's and O's, recruiting. I was tied into a lot of that stuff. So those guys for sure I'm blessed to be a part of, 3 really good junior college programs before I got to take over Tonkawa last year, and now here I am back in Dodge City. So I'm just blessed, man, to be back in this conference.
Yeah. What do you think, Coach, if you had to say, enabled you along the way to be able to be successful early? Most of the time, to get a head coaching job is hard, but then to get a head coaching job and a year later get another one, following both guys who have been extremely successful, as you mentioned. And I know it's a question that's kind of tricky because it makes you talk about yourself, but and I know you have humility, but there's a reason why. What do you think you would attribute to being able to do that, other than just kind of being blessed and putting in the work? There's something else maybe along the way.
Yeah, I think it goes along the lines of working for good people. Those guys I mentioned are still good friends of mine. That they know that, and so having worked for guys like that, it makes getting
Right.
jobs a little bit easier. And then doing a good job, obviously, while you're there, that makes a difference. As an assistant coach, you got to pay your dues and do the stuff sometimes that you don't necessarily want to do, but you know that it'll make your program successful wherever you are. So I
Right.
think that's a big part of it. And then honestly, like just knowing people, I wouldn't have got Tonkawa if it wasn't for Donnie Jackson, who was there previous to me,
Right.
and so him leaving and getting the Cali job, and then, the fact that he would call me and say, "Hey, are you interested?" And I think he put in a good word for me down there. And so I'm blessed that he did that for me and kind of
Right.
got my foot in the door being a head coach. And then obviously I was here in this conference for 4 years as an assistant. So I got to know ADs and assistant ADs and stuff like that. And I really tried to, every place we would go, I would try to make those connections with those guys because for this reason right here, this job came open. Once again, Jake Williams that left helped me get this job, but I'd known Jake Ripple, the AD here, for a long time prior because of just being in the league, and so he
Right.
knew who I was, and that's part of just getting the job. It's hard to get ahead. It's hard to get a job, and so I've been blessed the last 2 years to be able to have a job. So
Do you think because, Coach, you grew up kind of knowing you wanted to be a head coach in that league, do you think you maybe attacked it differently, that you did network with maybe ADs and make relationships with more people in general than just only focus on basketball? Sometimes as basketball coaches, we only focus on hoop and the next recruit, and we almost get too competitive or we forget, like, wait a minute, there's a bigger picture. These relationships may pay off later, like a Donnie Jackson, like a Jake, like the ADs that you mentioned. Did you have a vision for that? Because I think sometimes we can lose sight of that.
yeah, a little bit. I think knowing that my long-term goal was to be back in this region helped me.
Yeah.
I think so when I was in Tonkawa last year and we played Cali twice, we played Hutch twice, we played Barton, we played some of these teams that are in this region. So, um, it's just, and then along the way, obviously, when I was at Barton, I did the same thing. And I think knowing that I wanted to be in this conference, to answer your question, I think it helped me the 4 years that when I was an assistant coach to kind of say, okay, I'm an assistant coach. I got duties I got to do at the school, but at the same time, we go these different places. I want to make a point of it to meet as many people as I can, because you never know when you're going to cross paths. You never know who can help you, who can do a favor for you. And I tell my guys that the same way, like, you got to treat everybody with respect, because it might be a year, 2 years, 3 years, 10 years down the road, and you might run into somebody that you met, at Pratt Community College or whatever it is, and that person's going to do you a favor. So that's kind of how I attacked it when I was an assistant.
Yep. We mentioned this before we started the recording, but you're married. You have a hooper as a wife. Talk about how you balance that. Let's give her a little shout out and love in this thing too, because we know.
Oh man, you're gonna make her day right now.
You can't even run from the question too.
You're gonna make her day. No, she's she's a firecracker, man. Everybody knows her, knows she is, and she's outspoken. But at the end of the day, she's been a coach. She played basketball, and so she gets it. And those coaches that are married or have significant others know how important that is when you have to go recruit, when you have to stay at the office, when you get back from a road game, to do laundry, to watch film, to break down, to upload the film, whatever it is. She's understanding when it comes to that, and that goes a long way, because I've heard nightmare stories of it going the other way, and it doesn't work out sometimes. So she gets it, and she's the one text I get after games when I get back to my office and check my phone. She's usually the one that says, "Why'd you go 2-3 zone? They banged the three. Why didn't you run this play? Why is this player not in the game right now?" Like, so I'll have all the stuff
That's
after
awesome.
the game, and it doesn't come from my dad. It doesn't come from other coaches. It comes from her usually. So she's kind of the critique of usually what happens in games.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that. So if you played one-on-one, obviously you played college, she played college. How does that battle go? Have you done that? Do you just play horse because it gets too competitive? What does that look like?
Well, this is where it gets tricky, because if we played a one-on-one game, I think I would beat her, and I think she would tell you that. But if it came to a game of horse, or just around the world where you got to shoot threes, she'd probably get me. She led the NCAA Division I in three-point percentage her senior year.
Wow.
So she can shoot that thing. And she's a JUCO product, man. Seward County and Carl Albert. So she went to 2 different JUCOs and then Lamar. So she can shoot it. So I think she'd outshoot me, but I think I'd get her one-on-one.
I like it. The best of both worlds. I love it.
Yeah.
What about, Coach, what would you say about the culture of your program? You talked about kind of what you demand of players and kind of your approach. What would you want people to know about the culture of the inside of the kind of the fabric of Dodge City basketball?
Yeah, we're pretty demanding with our guys. I touched on a little bit, but just having a good personality and having great energy and just being happy where you are, because a lot of these kids think the grass is greener. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But I really try and make sure they understand that we're in a really, really good spot here. And I think when we go other places, they kind of understand that. So that's huge to us. But I also demand a lot. We keep our guys busy, breakfast check every day, study hall twice a week, practice weights, all that stuff. And so just them understanding why they're here and them working is huge. It's a huge deal for us. So I just want them to appreciate where they're at. And we're really big on buying in to our program, to our coaches, to our teammates, because at this level, it's a me level. And it's hard to get that out of some kids. In some programs too, because it's all about what's next. It's all about who's recruiting me, who's calling me. So we try and get that out of them pretty quick when we meet with them. So, it's one thing I always tell them in the first team meeting. I said, if we win games, there's enough pieces of pie for everybody. And I'm hoping they're starting to get a little bit of feel for that. Like if we win games, everybody in this room is going to get what they want. So, but that has to come first. So that's one thing we preach every single day.
I love it. We normally ask a funny story. So you've already told one about your wife in the text message, but we'll give you the floor to tell another funny story, or just a good JUCO story. It doesn't have to be funny because you already gave us some entertainment.
Oh man, you're gonna put me on the spot right here, man.
Yeah, that's how it goes. It's the hot seat. They didn't tell you about that part.
A good JUCO story. Ooh.
As a coach, as a maybe even a recruiting story, maybe even a 4-year school recruiting your program story. Anything good. There's a lot of good JUCO. Could be an everyday story. Could be a practice story.
Yeah. I got a good recruiting a JUCO story.
Okay.
Actually, I got a couple, but I'll start with
Yeah,
one.
we'll go with both of them. We'll go with both of them.
Okay. Both of them when I was at Burton, man, I was going to Kansas City. I was recruiting a kid in Kansas City pretty hard. It's about a 4-hour drive from Great Bend to Kansas City. So
Okay.
I was texting the kid all week, hey, I want to come do an in-school visit, meet with you, sit down, talk to you, give you some stuff, about our program, talk to you, all that stuff. All week talking to him. He's texted right back, good dialogue, all that stuff. So I leave to go, I think it's a Friday. I leave, I go up there, drive 4.5 hours. I'm texting the kid, yeah, coach, I'll be there. Cool. So I get a drive all the way. I pull up to the high school, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, I feel like there should be more cars here than this.
Right.
So then I go ahead and I pull in. There's some people around. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe just no one drives. I don't know. So then I walk into the school. Security guard stops me. Hey, what's going on? I said, well, I'm here to talk to this kid. I've been talking to him all day. And he's like, Coach, we don't have school today. And I go, what are you talking about? He goes, nah, there's no kids here. They're gone. We don't have school. And so I text the kid, and he's like, oh, yeah, my bad, coach. I forgot to tell you, I'm out of town now with my mom. He wasn't even in town. Wow. And so I drove 4 hours, man, all the way there. The people at the high school were cool. They were making fun of me, laughing at me. So I didn't end up getting the kid either. So it is what it is. That's kind of how it works out, man. So,
wow. Did he end up being a good player somewhere else?
Yes, very good player somewhere else.
Okay.
Very good player.
You can tell me after we can tell me after you hang up who it is.
Yeah. I'll tell you afterwards. I got another story, another good one. I was in Chicago with Coach Fletcher when I was at Burton recruiting, and I think it was over Christmas break. And he that's his environment, man. Going to Chicago and deep dish pizza, and he's pushing the rental around Chicago. You know what I mean? And he I don't know if he took a wrong turn or went the wrong way, but we ended up in a not so good part of South Side Chicago.
Right.
We pulled up to a stoplight, and we're 3 or 4 cars deep, and there's a bus stop. I look over, and there's a bus stop next to the stoplight, and it's just packed full of people. And I make eye contact with this lady, and she makes eye contact with both us, and she runs over to the car, and I told Fletch, I said, this isn't going to be good. So we lock the doors, and she tries to get in the car to start, and she finds out it's locked, and then she jumps on the hood of the car at a red light on the hood of a car and just starts dancing on a rental.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Pop, lock, and drop it right there.
Yeah. And so she jumps off, throws up some deuces to us and runs off. And we pull off, and I look at Fletch, and I'm like, what just happened? I don't know what that was. So those are 2 funny stories, man, I like to tell. But I'm sure I got a lot more, but you put me on the spot. So
no, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Coach, we appreciate it, man. I'm excited for the rest of the year for you. We always give the floor at the end just to say anything you want to say about the program, about JUCO in general, or even obviously shout out to the guys at JUCO Recruiting for recognizing the team, but we'll give you the floor.
Yeah, I just hope we can keep it going. I told our guys yesterday, this is all fine and dandy, and we like the recognition, and it's good for our program, it's good for our players, but there's a lot more work to do. We're only 3 games in.
No doubt.
13 teams deep in this region. If you don't bring it one night, you can lose the game pretty easy. So we're going to try and keep this thing going. Big home game tomorrow night. And then we got 2 tough ones, Garden and Butler. And then we end with Cloud and Hutch. So this 5-game stretch before Christmas is going to be crazy. So I'm just happy to be a part of it, man. I'm playing a small role in this team right now. Our guys are doing most of it. So I'm just trying to give them a little direction.
No doubt. And then I forgot to mention this one on the last one too, but your staff, you have a staff, I'm assuming there of at least 1 or 2 guys. I'll let you get a quick shout out to those guys too.
Yeah. Coach Gronwald played for me in Illinois, actually. He was on our team that played for the national title, D2 national title. So nice. He was with me in Oklahoma last year. He's with me now, does a great job. Great weight room, great individual guy, does all the stuff, behind the scenes stuff. He's paying his dues right now. So shout out to him. He runs the day-to-day stuff for me, which is awesome. And then we got another guy who's 22, fresh out of college, just getting started.
Nice.
I remember those days, man. But he came from Montana State, Alec Nyes. So he was from a winning program. They went to the tournament last year. So he's been around. He's been around some good basketball too. So both those guys are kind of just getting started. So I'm excited to see how they end up, man. So, but I'm blessed to have both those guys on my staff.
Yeah, love it. Well, good luck this week, Coach. We know you're far from done, but we got to be able to recognize the work that's been done so far. And congratulations and keep up the good work. Great to meet you. And I look forward to seeing some videos of some of those horse games at some point, maybe in the offseason.
No video evidence in this household, man.
No doubt, Coach. Good luck. Thanks, man.
All right, man. I appreciate you.